Good day, everyone, and this week's best practice is featured from Miami. I'm out here on a business trip attending the ASA conference, of which Casto is a board member. We're focusing today on the recent travel alert that was issued by the State Department last week, encompassing travel to any of the regions and countries that surround Syria. Now, needless to say that this alert probably comes as no one, to surprise to no one, given the recent news. But it is an important item to consider, as we've been receiving a lot of calls from clients regarding whether or not it's actually safe to travel in that area. That led us to think, well, maybe we should look at the topic of travel alerts themselves more broadly and in general. When receiving them, and we highly recommend anybody who's involved to sign up for the State Department Alert Program so they are notified of any updates on the travel alerts, to consider a number of different factors to determine whether or not this and how it does apply to your company and your travelers. First and foremost, do be aware of the actual details contained within the alert. For example, in last week's notification regarding Turkey, it was very specific in stating it only applied to the eastern area, an area that's sometimes considered a bit lawless. It did not apply to Istanbul or the more common destinations. Conversely, Iraq and Pakistan were listed in many cases as a avoid-at-all-costs travel consideration. Next, do consider what solutions are recommended within the alert. Oftentimes there's some very practical suggestions of avoid a certain park at night, or alternatively the general avoid all protests, which is oftentimes a good consideration. Where in other locations, they might actually be much more overt in their statement of effectively do not travel there or only travel under armed guard, something we can certainly assist with. Next, be very aware of your insurance. Oftentimes, liability and possibly in some cases medical insurance will not actually be covered in areas that are listed under the State Department warning list. So be aware of it and certainly communicate that component with your travelers. Finally, one of the areas that we always try to take in consideration, particularly when we provide our own advisories, is something much more subjective. Namely, is the alert actually true and honest, which I fully believe the last week's was, or is it something that's probably much more of a diplomatic basis? There's a long-held feeling within many communities that oftentimes different state departments from different countries will issue alerts and advisories that are due to concerns of international natures between the separate countries, or that they're as part of a trade negotiation. For example, last week Russia actually issued an alert to its own citizens advising not to travel to the United States for fear of extradition. Obviously, it's probably related to a certain other matter that's taking place. Finally, highly recommend your travelers who are going to certain destinations to enroll in the STEP program that's provided by the U.S. State Department, which would provide them notification and advisement when there happens to be an event taking place and what are the steps available for them to remedy their situation. So, take care, and until next week, this is Casto Travel.